Okay, excellent. Okay.
It wasn't so easy, even though I went far down. When I got to the middle, it still wasn't so easy.
Right. But you did it. And Lashon Kodesh, this is totally, absolutely impossible. Because it's a famous joke. Where's it gone? The famous joke that someone wanted to make some money. So he opened up a store to sell milk, kosher Pesach. And he opened up the store, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock. No one even come in to ask how much it is. He asked his friend to come over. What's going on? His friend came, and it turned out he had written Kelev kosher lepetach, a dog tied to the door. The mice says only a few mistakes. A chof, a ches instead of a chof, a shin instead of a kof instead of a kuf, a samach instead of a sof instead of a samach. Big deal. Yeah, you can't do this English. English doesn't work with it. So therefore, English basically is a sick language. I know I'm an expert in English, and every rule will come out, it doesn't last long. And make it small again. Sorry. Yeah. And therefore, any research on fixing English is like, and then using it for Hebrew, is like giving medicine to fix a sick person and give it to a healthy person. It makes the person sick. Therefore, unfortunately, most of the techniques built for English, which are then converted, adapted for Hebrew, actually do damage. They actually make the situation worse. So now, let me, also in English, the learning curve, if you know a little bit good, so you know it better. In Lashon HaKodesh, until you know it well, it's very hard to understand. So therefore, efficiency is much more choshev, important for Lashon HaKodesh than Rav Moshe Feinstein explains in Divas Moshe. He's on the Dorim. He says there's two types of language. There's language be'heskem, and language be'etzem. Table is TABLE. Why? Because it's nothing. A person who's never seen a table, if he sees the word TABLE, has no idea what it is. Now, how many fingers do we have in our, how many bones do we have on our fingers? We have 3, 6, 9, 12, and 2 makes 14. What's the gematria of 14? Yad. 2 times 14 is 28. What's the gematria of 28? 20 is chof, 8 is ches, koach. The Mekubalim, they look at the word, they know exactly what it is. Therefore, it's language be'etzem. That is it. And Aryeh, if you look at the lions, you feel scared. Aryeh Yira, the same osius. Because that's the nature of a lion. Now, Now, would you please like to read this? Okay, are you having fun? Are you enjoying it? Are you understanding it? Would you pick up a book written this time? Now, my mother-in-law, she was born in Germany, and the regular books were printed in this type of oisius. For her, this would be easy peasy. For us, very, very hard. This is a question of efficiency. In the end, you do recognize the oisius. But it takes your time, you have to invest. Koach, moach, attention, brain power, in order to identify each letter. So someone who is inefficient in his learning, in his familiarity with Lashon HaKodesh Osius, will be reading in this style. It won't be enjoyable. He'll have a hard job understanding it. In the end, it could be he will. We'll have a hard job. And it definitely won't be enjoyable, and he definitely would not pick up a book to enjoy it. This is if you're reading slowly. Again, don't forget, reading is time-based. Right? Something that gets into the brain and be understood has to be speed according to the nature of the reader. Some people are slow, some people are fast. This is with, we don't hope from dyslexia. In our system, there's no such thing as dyslexia. And Professor McGuinness agrees with us. She also says there's no such thing, there's no such thing as dyslexia. And therefore, a system is not advised for Lashon HaKodesh. However, there are those mumchim who convert McGuinness' system for treating dyslexia in Lashon HaKodesh. Go figure. Okay, she herself says it's not, her system is not for Hebrew. Anyway, so here we have N and a U, A and C, A and E, Q and P, B and D, WM. So it becomes unintelligible. So therefore, a person who is confusing a tof and a test, and a kof and a kuf, and a chof and a ches, etc., also, if they're making some mistakes, sometimes it destroys the meaning. Don't forget, it's Lashon HaKodesh, which needs to be totally accurate. This is without vowels. In order to read a text without vowels, you have to make a shidduch. You have to be able to work out which real word is based on the skeleton of these combinations of letters, which demands a complete data bank. Now, to have a data bank, first of all, the input has to be fast enough for the letter to be processed in the brain, the word to be processed in the brain and stored away. Secondly, it means the person has to read it as whole units. Therefore, reading in syllables destroys the ability to build up a data bank. Also, Lashon HaKodesh is built up from 400 or 500 shorashim, and the only way to recognize a shorish is by reading as a whole word. Ash, Rei, Yosh, Rei, Rei, Seh, Cho. Doesn't mean anything. No shorashim. Ashrei, oh, could be Oisha, could be Shir, Machlokes Rishonim, Yoshvei, Lashon Yishu, Beisecho, Bais. So even though I might not know the exact diktuk translation, I can have a relationship with the word. And of course, all the advanced text in learning Torah is without nikud. And without punctuation. Gemara is without punctuation. Amazing difference. And now it makes things even worse. Here we have Gemara with letter recognition inefficiency. Now, a regular chutznik, a regular American or English person, bocher, when he looks at the Gemara, this is what he sees. Unless he's been taught really, really well, which is unfortunately quite rare nowadays, unfortunately. Or unless it's brilliant, and he picks it up by himself. So this is a major reason why Bochum people don't enjoy learning Gemara. This is what they're faced with. These reading glasses. It's a blur. Or it could be his glasses are dirty. Now, there's another problem. Because if he's reading a blurred text and it's blurry, you'll see that a pei becomes a kof. Sega becomes a komets. The tzei becomes a pasach. Right? A base could be a kof, could be a pei. In other words, with someone with such situation, you can work on his outer base, and he's always going to make mistakes, and you're banging your head against the wall because he isn't capable of defining if it's a Sager or comets, and so on. If you bang someone's head against the wall, either the wall gets a hole or his head gets a hole. Conversion insufficiency. Now you can read this. Often you find that the eyes are pointing a little bit in not exactly the same direction, and therefore they're targeting not exactly the same point, and therefore the image being input into the brain from the two eyes are not the same. However, often the brain can artificially convert it into a whole word. And then, however, it's taking up brain power and it's tiring the brain. I once sent a younger man from Amir with this problem. When he finished, I asked him, what difference does it make? He said, oh, you can do it like usual, but now instead of feeling tired, after looking inside the Gemara for half an hour, he can go 2-3 hours without feeling tired. So often you find people feel that the fact they have to look away from the Gemara and they get tired because they don't really appreciate Torah enough. They think it's a problem with their with Ashkofa, and they can get depressed with themselves. It's not, it's a physical thing. I once checked a young boy, and next day his mother phoned me up. The boy said, well, sometimes the Rebbe has one head, sometimes he has two heads. For him, that's normal. Of course, everyone sometimes go have one head once. Why? He's born with that. He thinks that's why everyone has the same problem. Everyone is in the same boat. So this is a Gemara with slightly conversion inefficiency. Now you can read it. Oh, it's painful. Oh, it's hard work. And definitely not enjoyable. And the person will have to look away when he tries to learn the Rashi. After a few minutes, he'll have to look away. As we last I mentioned before, read the syllables. Lashon Kodesh is language. A language is something you speak. A word is a unit of information. When you speak, you give over that unit of information. And when you write a word, you're also giving over information. So print is speech in solid form. Either because you want to send a message to someone who's out of range, or because it's for generations. When we say Tilim, David the Melech is speaking to us through the language, the Chumash, all the Sforim, they're speaking to us, using the words as their form of language, as their form of speech. Now, breaking up the syllables destroys that. You don't say to your mother, please can I have a glass of water? You don't speak like that. And therefore reading can't be like that, because it takes away the whole concept of language. It's the Hebrew. When so when you read a paragraph, if you've forgotten what the beginning of the paragraph is about, by the time you get to the end, you can't grasp the totality of the paragraph. Sometimes an old person wants to speak to you, and he takes so long. By the time he gets to the end, you've forgotten what he said at the beginning. And therefore, there's also a need for speed. So the brain can import the information at a sufficient rate that it'll grasp the totality of what's being said.